A $4 book from 1961 changed everything. If you walk into a vintage bookstore today, you might find a dusty copy of a book written decades before the internet, before cryptocurrency, and before the phrase side hustle ever existed. Yet, the pages inside contain the exact financial blueprint that the wealthiest families in the world have been quietly using for over a century. These are the 5 old money rules that could completely transform your financial life by 2026, if you are patient enough to follow them. Right now, most people are educated about money through a highly toxic cycle. You open Instagram or Twitter, and you are immediately bombarded by 20-year-olds standing in front of rented Lamborghinis, telling you that if you aren't waking up at 4 a.m., running 3 automated dropshipping stores, and day trading leveraged crypto assets, you are failing at life. We have been sold a massive lie that wealth is supposed to be fast, loud, and incredibly stressful. But true old money families, the ones whose last names are on university buildings and hospital wings, do not hustle. They don't day trade. They don't panic when the stock market drops. They have been quietly building and protecting generational wealth using a set of rules that never trend online. Why? Because they are boring, and because they were never meant to be public. In this video, we are going to look past the noise. We are going to follow a realistic, grounded journey. We are going to watch an everyday person go from exactly $18,000 in savings at age 27 to a $1.1 million net worth by age 41. They won't do this through hustle culture. They won't do it through a lucky crypto pump. And they won't do it by working 100-hour weeks until they burn out. They are going to achieve total financial freedom using 5 timeless, unbreakable principles that wealthy families have protected for generations. Let's begin. Rule number 1, the preservation of capital. There is a fundamental difference in how different classes of people view a dollar. The poor view money as a way to buy survival. The middle class views money as a way to buy lifestyle and comfort. New money views money as a tool to make high-risk, high-reward gambles to get rich quick. But old money views money completely differently. They view money as a fragile employee, and their number 1 rule, before they ever think about making a profit, is to never, ever let that employee die. Old money focuses entirely on the preservation of capital. Let's look at our 27-year-old investor. They have worked hard, lived below their means, and managed to save exactly $18,000. If you give $18,000 to someone with a new money mindset, their first instinct is aggressive expansion. They will look for a volatile tech stock, a highly speculative digital asset, or a risky real estate flip. They want to turn that $18,000 into $100,000 by next Friday. But the old money rule dictates a harsh mathematical truth. The hardest money you will ever make in your entire life is your first $10,000 to $20,000. It requires the most sacrifice, the most discipline, and the most time. That initial money is your seed corn. If a farmer survives a brutal winter, he has a small bag of seed corn left. If he is impatient and hungry, he might eat the seed corn to feel full today. But if he eats the seeds, he can never plant a harvest in the spring. He is permanently wiped out. Old money understands the asymmetry of loss. Let's do the math. If you invest $18,000 into a highly risky asset and you lose 50% of it, you are down to $9,000. To get back to where you started, you don't need a 50% gain. You now need a 100% return just to break even. Losing money mathematically destroys your timeline. Therefore, at age 27, our investor makes a remarkably boring choice. They do not buy the stock that everyone on Twitter is screaming about. They do not use leverage. Instead, they protect their seed corn by placing it into a broad, highly diversified index fund. They buy a tiny slice of the entire global economy. This decision will not make them a millionaire tomorrow. It will not buy them a Rolex next month, but it does something far more important. It structurally guarantees that they will not go back to zero. Capital preservation creates the permanent, unbreakable concrete foundation required to build a multi-million-dollar empire. You absolutely cannot compound your money if you keep losing the principal. Keep the seed corn safe. Rule number 2, the principle of stealth wealth. If there is one defining characteristic of the modern middle class, it is status anxiety. We are trapped in a culture that demands we prove our success to people we don't even like. New money loves to look rich. As soon as a new money individual gets a promotion or a windfall of cash, what is the first thing they do? They finance a luxury SUV. They buy a watch that costs as much as a college education. They move into a massive house that requires 50% of their income just to pay the mortgage and property taxes. They want to sit at a red light and have the stranger in the car next to them think, "Wow, that person is successful." Old money families do the exact opposite. They understand a deeply uncomfortable truth. Displaying wealth makes you a massive target. When you loudly broadcast your wealth, you become a target for higher taxes. You become a target for frivolous lawsuits. You become a target for salespeople, for opportunities, and most toxically, you become a target for the jealousy and envy of your peers. Old money actively and intentionally hides their net worth. Let's check back in on our investor. By age 32, they have kept their head down. They have been consistently taking 20% of their salary and automatically investing it every single month. Thanks to their steady contributions and the natural growth of the market, their net worth has quietly grown to $75,000. At work, they get a major promotion. Their salary increases by $25,000 a year. This is the exact moment where 99% of people fail. The moment they get the raise, they upgrade their apartment. They lease a BMW, and they start flying first class. They absorb the new income into their lifestyle, meaning their actual wealth generation stays at exactly zero. Our investor follows the rule of stealth wealth. When the promotion hits their bank account, they do not change a single thing about their visible life. They keep driving their reliable 7-year-old Honda. They stay in their modest, comfortable apartment. They continue to wear unbranded, high-quality clothing. To the outside world, it looks like nothing has changed. But behind the scenes, something incredibly powerful is happening. They are widening the invisible gap. The invisible gap is the mathematical difference between what you earn and what you visibly spend. That gap is the sole engine of wealth creation. Wealth is not the car you bought. Wealth is not the designer bag you carry. Wealth is the money you did not spend. Wealth is the options you have. Wealth is the freedom to quit a toxic job because you have 3 years of living expenses sitting in liquid assets. The less you show to the world, the more power you actually keep for yourself. Rule number 3, buying cash-flowing monopolies. As our investor moves into their mid-30s, they realize a profound economic reality. You cannot save your way to $1 million. Inflation is a silent thief that will constantly erode the purchasing power of cash sitting in a bank account. But equally, you shouldn't gamble your money away on speculative trends. So what do old money families actually buy? They do not buy speculative assets hoping that a greater fool will come along and pay a higher price for it later. They buy cash-flowing monopolies. What does this mean? It means they buy assets that produce real, tangible value, regardless of what the stock market is doing on a Tuesday afternoon. They buy agricultural land that produces food people need to survive. They buy commercial real estate that collects rent from businesses that need physical locations. They buy broad index funds, which essentially means they are purchasing a small ownership stake in the 500 most powerful, profitable corporate monopolies on the planet. At age 35, our investor's net worth crosses $250,000. They did not get there by staring at candlestick charts or trading options. They got there because they transformed from a consumer into an owner. When you own a broad index fund, you own a piece of the banks that charge interest on credit cards. You own a piece of the technology companies that sell the smartphones everyone is addicted to. You own a piece of the energy companies that power the grid. You stop paying the monopolies and you start collecting from them. And here is the secret to this rule: the dividend loop. Every quarter, these massive companies pay out a portion of their profits to their shareholders in the form of dividends. When our investor receives these cash dividends, what do? Do they spend it on a vacation? No. They immediately and automatically reinvest those dividends to buy even more shares of the monopolies. It becomes a closed, silent loop of wealth creation. The assets produce cash. The cash buys more assets. The new assets produce even more cash. This requires zero hustle, zero 4 a.m. wake-ups, and zero screen time. It is the quiet, ruthless efficiency of capital working for you while you sleep. Rule number 4. The 14-year compounding window. This is the rule where the math becomes magical and where the human brain usually fails completely. Human beings are wired to think linearly. We think that if one step moves us 1 meter, 10 steps will move us 10 meters. But money does not grow linearly. Money grows exponentially, and the human brain struggles to comprehend the sheer explosive power of exponential growth over long periods of time. Old money families teach their children the absolute supremacy of compound interest. Let's look at the historical data. If you invest in the broad U.S. stock market, accounting for dividends and inflation, your money has historically doubled roughly every 7 to 10 years. Let's apply this to our investor, who started at age 27. The first 7 years, from 27 to 34, were a brutal test of psychology. This is known as the boring middle. Going from $0 to $100,000 takes years of grinding, saving, and extreme financial discipline. It feels incredibly slow. Most people give up during this phase because they don't see immediate, flashy results. They get bored, pull their money out, and buy a car. But our investor survived the boring middle. By age 34, their original foundation, combined with their steady monthly contributions, started to snowball. They hit $300,000. But the real explosion, the moment that creates millionaires, happens in the second half of the 14-year compounding window. Going from $18,000 to $100,000 took years of blood, sweat, and active saving. But going from $500,000 to $1 million, that often happens in just a few short years, and it requires absolutely zero extra physical effort. It is entirely driven by the momentum of the money itself. When you have $500,000 invested, a standard 10% market year generates $50,000 in passive growth. Your money is now earning a full-time salary all by itself. By age 41, exactly 14 years after they started with just a modest $18,000 in a glass jar, our investor crosses the $1.1 million net worth mark. Let that sink in. They did not invent a new app. They did not become a social media influencer. They did not work 100-hour weeks until their health collapsed. They just consistently fed the compounding machine. And most importantly, they left it alone. They allowed the brutal, beautiful mathematics of time to do the heavy lifting for them. Rule number 5. Generational thinking and the 100-year plan. New money plans for the weekend. The middle-class plans for retirement. Old money plans for the next century. There is a famous global proverb that exists in almost every culture. In English it is, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. In Asia they say, wealth does not pass 3 generations. It means the first generation works incredibly hard to build the wealth. The second generation grows up comfortable and enjoys the wealth, and the third generation, having never known the struggle, completely wastes the wealth, forcing the fourth generation to start over from absolute zero. Old money families defeat this curse by building financial fortresses. When our investor hits $1.1 million at age 41, their mindset shifts entirely. They do not cash out their index funds to buy a yacht or a mega mansion. They start setting up the legal and psychological architecture to protect the money from the world, and eventually, from their own descendants. They stop thinking about their own lifespan and start thinking about their great-grandchildren. They set up trusts. They take out strategic life insurance policies designed specifically to pay off estate taxes so their children don't have to liquidate assets. They build a wall around the money, but the legal structure is only half the battle. The most important thing they do is change the psychology of their children. They teach their kids that they do not own the money. That is the critical mental shift. The children are taught that they are simply the stewards of the family bank. The money is not a lottery ticket to live a life of lazy luxury. The wealth is a tool. It is there to pay for top-tier education. It is there to provide the seed capital for a new family business. It is there to pay for medical emergencies. The principle is treated as sacred. It is a golden goose. You are allowed to carefully collect the golden eggs, but you are never, under any circumstances, allowed to kill the goose. By shifting the mindset from ownership to stewardship, the wealth survives the third generation. It survives recessions. It survives market crashes. It lasts 100 years. The rules of money are completely ruthless. They do not care if you understand them or not. They do not care if you think they are fair. The modern financial system is a massive, complex machine, perfectly designed to extract wealth from the impatient and quietly transfer it to the patient. You do not need to be born into an old money family with a fancy last name to use their playbook. You just need to stop playing the short-term, flashy game that social media is constantly pushing on you. Protect your capital. Never go back to zero. Hide your wealth and widen the invisible gap. Buy cash-flowing monopolies instead of speculative gambles. Let time and compound interest do the heavy lifting, and build a financial fortress that lasts long after you are gone. Take control of your wealth today. If you are committing to the long game, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video.